No one in that courtroom expected what was about to happen, and that was exactly why it worked. They laughed quietly, confident they were about to watch another scared teenager crumble under pressure. What they did not know was that this girl had walked in ready to flip the entire system on its head, and by the time the day was over, every single person in that room would remember her name. The courtroom was packed, far more crowded than a normal hearing had any right to be. This was the kind of scene people expected for a major trial, not for a case involving a young defendant with no lawyer beside her. The benches were filled with spectators, reporters lined the back wall, and a low hum of whispers floated through the air like static. People leaned toward one another, trading guesses and quiet judgments, their voices blending into a constant buzz that filled the room. At the center of it all stood a young black teenager, no older than 17 at most. She wore simple clothes and worn sneakers that squeaked softly every time she shifted her weight on the cold, polished floor. She stood alone, no attorney at her side, no parent close enough to offer comfort. Still, she did not look afraid. Her posture was straight, her hands were steady, her face showed calm focus, not panic. Judge Harold Brenner leaned back in his chair, studying her over the rim of his glasses. His robe hung loosely over his large frame, as if he had thrown it on without much care. His expression held something sharper than doubt. It held dismissal. The corner of his mouth curled slightly, not quite a smile, not quite a frown, but something close to contempt. "Miss Freeman," he said, stretching out her last name as if it annoyed him. "Do you even understand what you are being accused of here?" The room fell silent at once. Every eye shifted between the judge and the girl. Some people leaned forward, waiting for her to stumble. Others prepared themselves for a nervous ramble or confused silence. That was what they expected from someone her age. She did not flinch. She did not look down. She met the judge's stare directly and answered in a clear, steady voice, "Yes, Your Honor, I do." Judge Brenner scoffed and leaned forward, resting his elbows on the bench. Now, he said, his tone thick with condescension. "Are you sure about that? Because this is not some after-school debate club. You are in a court of law, young lady." A few quiet chuckles rippled through the gallery. The sound was sharp and unpleasant. For the first time, the girl let her eyes move across the room. She took in the faces staring back at her. Most of them were older, dressed in suits, their expressions hard and judgmental. They looked at her like she was entertainment, not a person. She did not rush to speak. She let them look. There was something in her eyes, something calm and knowing, as if she saw the whole picture while they were still guessing. The judge was not finished. "I do not know why anyone thought it was a good idea to let you speak for yourself," he continued, waving his hand dismissively. "This is not child's play. You are not equipped for this." Her lips parted slightly as if she might respond. Then she closed them again. A faint smile touched her face, small but confident. The gallery shifted uneasily. Some people felt it. Something was different, even if they could not explain what. Judge Brenner mistook her silence for weakness. He smirked. "That is what I thought." What he did not realize, what no one in that room realized, was that this girl was not there by accident. She was not lost. She was not confused. She was exactly where she wanted to be, and by the end of the hearing, every person who had underestimated her would regret it. The judge tapped his pen against the desk, the sound sharp and impatient. "Let us get this over with," he muttered, flipping open the file in front of him. "Prosecution may proceed." The district attorney stood. He was tall, clean, cut with slicked back hair and a smooth, practiced manner. He glanced briefly at the girl, his smirk echoing the judge's earlier expression. "Your Honor, this is an open and shut case," he began. "The evidence speaks for itself." He started pacing slowly, laying out his argument as if the outcome were already decided. He spoke quickly and confidently, never once looking at the teenager as though she mattered. The defendant, a minor, was found at the scene in possession of materials clearly linking her to the incident. "Objection!" The word cut through the courtroom like a blade. Calm, clear, unexpected. The district attorney froze mid-sentence and spun around to stare at her. The gallery stirred, whispers rising again. Judge Brenner raised an eyebrow. Objection, he repeated, his voice heavy with sarcasm. Miss Freeman, do you even know what that means? Yes, Your Honor, she replied without hesitation. The prosecutor is making assumptions about my intent without providing proper context. That is speculative and inadmissible. Shock rippled through the room. The district attorney blinked, clearly thrown off his rhythm. Your Honor, this is highly irregular. What is irregular, she said evenly, is the lack of actual evidence tying me to any criminal activity. The judge slammed his gavel down hard. That is enough. His face flushed red. Miss Freeman, you are here to defend yourself, not to play lawyer. One more outburst like that, and I will hold you in contempt. Her expression did not change. Understood, Your Honor. The district attorney cleared his throat and turned back toward the judge, trying to regain control, as I was saying. Permission to approach the bench. The gasp from the gallery was loud this time. Judge Brenner stared at her in disbelief. You do not get to make demands in my courtroom, he barked. I am not making a demand, Your Honor, she replied calmly. I am exercising my right to a fair defense. If you are unwilling to hear me out, I will file a motion for recusal due to judicial bias. The silence that followed was heavy and complete. Judge Brenner leaned back slowly, his eyes narrowing. You think you are clever, he said at last. Fine, approach. She stepped forward. Her sneakers squeaked again on the polished floor. Every eye followed her as she crossed the space, but she walked as if she felt none of the pressure. She placed a stack of papers on the bench, sliding them forward carefully. This is a preliminary review of the evidence submitted by the prosecution, she said. As you will see, half of it is circumstantial, and the rest lacks proper chain of custody. The judge frowned as he flipped through the pages. The district attorney's face tightened with anger. Your Honor, this is absurd. The judge muttered, still reading. He looked up sharply. Where did you get this? I prepared it, she said. And how does a teenager know how to do this, he asked. She paused briefly. I read. The room leaned in. Something had shifted. The judge studied her face more closely now, as if trying to see past the calm expression she wore so easily. The courtroom was completely silent. No coughing, no shifting. Just the faint sound of paper as Judge Brenner slowly turned another page. The district attorney looked like he was about to explode. Your Honor, this is a waste of time, he snapped. She is a child. This is not a debate club. The judge raised one hand without looking at him. His eyes stayed on the papers. Enough. He flipped through several more pages, his brow furrowing deeper with each one. His confidence, so solid earlier, began to crack. Miss Freeman, he said slowly, where did you learn how to construct something like this? The girl stood straight, her hands relaxed at her sides. Like I said, Your Honor. I read a lot. That answer did not satisfy him, but he could not find a flaw in her work either. The arguments were clean. The logic was solid. Every point was supported. He searched for mistakes, for something he could point to and dismiss, but nothing stood out. The gallery felt it too. People leaned forward, some whispered quietly, others simply stared. Who was this girl? The district attorney shifted uncomfortably. Your Honor, this is ridiculous. We are letting a minor derail a clear case. Judge Brenner looked up sharply. Mr. Hensley, sit down. The attorney froze, then slowly lowered himself into his chair, his face tight with frustration. The judge turned back to the girl. Who are you really, Miss Freeman? The question hung in the air. She did not rush to answer. She let her eyes sweep across the room once more, taking in the judge, the prosecutor, the spectators. Then she met his gaze again. I am someone who understands the law better than most people in this room, she said calmly. And I am here to prove it. A low murmur rippled through the gallery. The judge's jaw tightened. Enough games, he said. What is your point? My point, she replied, stepping back slightly but never breaking eye contact, is that I am not just a teenager standing trial. I am an attorney. The reaction was immediate. Gasps, murmurs, a few sharp laughs of disbelief. The district attorney slammed his hand on the table. This is absurd. She is lying. I am not, she said firmly. I passed the California bar exam last year. You can look me up. Harper Freeman, licensed attorney. The judge stared at her, stunned. Clerk, he said sharply, verify that. The courtroom fell silent again as the clerk typed rapidly. Each second stretched longer than the last. Finally, she looked up, eyes wide. It is true, Your Honor. Harper Freeman is a registered attorney with the State Bar of California. The room erupted. The judge slammed his gavel, calling for order, but even he looked shaken now. You are telling me, he said slowly, that you are a licensed attorney at your age. Yes, Your Honor, I graduated early, earned my degree, and passed the bar. The district attorney sputtered, red-faced. This is highly irregular. It may be unusual, the judge said quietly, but it is allowed. He leaned back, studying her as if she were an unsolved riddle. I have never seen anything like this. You underestimated me, Your Honor, she said calmly. Many people here did, but I am not here to play games. I am here to win. The power in the room had shifted completely. Judge Brenner leaned forward, hands clasped. All right, Miss Freeman, you have our attention. Proceed. Thank you, Your Honor. She turned to face the prosecution. The first issue is the reliance on circumstantial evidence. Let us start with Exhibit B, the surveillance footage. The district attorney folded his arms. The footage clearly shows you at the scene. It shows someone who looks like me, Harper replied, but the timestamp is missing. The video was retrieved from an unverified source, violating chain of custody. Without authentication, it is inadmissible. The judge frowned and looked at the prosecutor. Is this accurate? The district attorney hesitated. The footage is reliable, is it? Harper pressed. Because I have a forensic analyst report detailing inconsistencies in the file. The judge motioned for the document. He skimmed it, his expression darkening. This raises serious concerns. This is just a tactic, the prosecutor protested. It is called due process, Harper replied, something you seem to have overlooked. A few people in the gallery nodded. Harper continued, next, Exhibit D, the so-called confession, signed after hours of interrogation without legal representation. That violates federal law. You did not request counsel, the prosecutor snapped. I did not need to. Minors are entitled to legal representation. That is the law. She paused, then continued, even if we ignore that, the confession contains errors. The address listed is incorrect. I never lived there. That is public record. The judge turned to the prosecutor. Do you have an explanation? The man flipped through his papers frantically. You do not, Harper said calmly. You assumed I would not fight back. The judge raised his hand. Miss Freeman, what exactly are you trying to accomplish? I am showing this court that justice is about truth, not convenience, and the truth is this case is built on weak evidence and stronger assumptions. Silence followed. Judge Brenner took a slow breath. Mr. Hensley, the evidence presented is compromised. Exhibit B lacks chain of custody. Exhibit D violates the defendant's rights. These are dismissed. The prosecutor sank into his chair, defeated. The judge looked back at Harper. I misjudged you. Thank you, Your Honor, she said. But this is about accountability. He nodded. Case dismissed. You are free to go. The gallery erupted again as Harper gathered her papers and walked out, calm and unshaken. The heavy courtroom doors swung open as Harper stepped into the hallway, and for a moment the noise behind her faded into nothing. Sunlight streamed in through the tall windows, washing over her face. She took one steady breath, not out of relief, out of control. She had walked into the courtroom underestimated, judged and dismissed, and she had walked out on her own terms. Reporters rushed forward almost instantly. Microphones were raised, cameras clicked. A young woman with a press badge leaned in close. Miss Freeman, she asked quickly, how did you manage to do all of this? What is your secret? Harper stopped and turned to face the cameras. There was no arrogance in her expression, no smugness, only certainty. "There is no secret," she said. "The law is meant to protect everyone, not just people who fit a certain image. People like me are often underestimated, but that does not mean we are incapable." She paused, letting her words sink in. Today was not just about clearing my name. It was about showing that intelligence, discipline, and determination do not come with an age limit. She turned and walked away as the reporters continued shouting questions behind her. Outside, a small crowd had gathered. Some people stared in disbelief, others looked inspired, a few simply watched quietly, processing what they had witnessed. Inside the courtroom, Judge Brenner remained seated long after the room had cleared. The echo of Harper's voice still rang in his ears. He replayed every moment, every assumption he had made before she ever spoke. He realized how close he had come to silencing the truth simply because of how it appeared. The district attorney packed up his files slowly, avoiding eye contact with anyone. His confidence had vanished, replaced by the heavy awareness that his certainty had blinded him. Word of the case spread quickly. By the afternoon, it was already circulating through legal circles and newsrooms. A teenage attorney had dismantled her own prosecution, not with emotion, not with drama, but with facts, law, and precision. People debated it online. Some questioned how someone so young could achieve so much. Others defended her fiercely, pointing out that brilliance does not follow a schedule. Harper went home that evening and placed her files on her desk, the same desk where she had studied late nights, read case law, and trained herself to stay calm under pressure. She did not celebrate. She did not post about it. She simply sat down and opened another book. Because for her, this was never about attention, it was about purpose. In the days that followed, invitations came in, interviews, speaking requests, offers from firms. She declined most of them. She knew exactly what she wanted, and she would move toward it at her own pace. The courtroom she walked out of that day would never forget her. Neither would the people who laughed when she first spoke. Their laughter had faded, replaced by something far heavier, respect. Harper Freeman had not just won a case. She had forced a room full of professionals to confront their own bias. She had reminded them that justice is not about appearances, it is about truth. And sometimes, the most dangerous person in the room is not the loudest or the oldest. It is the one everyone overlooks. What is stopping you from breaking the limits people place on you? Share your thoughts below and start the conversation.